Who do you think would be more famous? Great General Khazan, hero of the Empire, or the man who killed him?
Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to go through the Maluca boss fight in the First Berserker Khazan. This one can be a little bit of a challenge, particularly the second phase, so I'll go through the way that I completed it using the Dual Wield weapon type. However, I also kind of played around with a Greatsword build as well, so I'll share both options if you want to have a couple options to try out. But I personally ultimately just kind of had more success using the Dual Wield. Just because I think at this point I'm just more comfortable with that weapon, so that's what I'm going to focus on, as well as a few other tips as well. So if you're struggling with this boss fight, hopefully this will all help you out. So starting off with my build for the Dual Wield weapon type, you can see all the skills that I have here. The primary attack I'll be utilizing the most is the Whirlwind combo, which is fully upgraded and then enhanced by using the Phantom Sword Dance Spirit skill. I also have the Ruthless skill and the Flash Cutter Spirit skills as well, which I make use of primarily for the second phase of the fight. And then finally, under Common, I just have a few remaining points under Resources to generate additional Spirit. And then here's a look at the stats that I had if you're curious. Not really any callouts here, but I ended up being level 70 when I beat him. And then also looking at my gear, again, nothing really strategic here, just mainly what I've picked up along the way. But I do have 3 pieces of the Deep Shadow set equipped and then 2 pieces of the Butcher set to take advantage of some extra bonuses. Okay, so now for the actual fight. So this first phase you can actually get through pretty easily if you just focus on guarding his attacks and then countering off brink guards using that blowback vengeance skill, which will then combo into the whirlwind skill, which is going to be doing most of the work here, alongside that phantom sword dance skill as well, which is going to enhance that combo even further. So if you do this off his initial attacks, for me, he would always do this burst attack in the middle of my whirlwind attack, as you can see here. But if you see that symbol pop up, just immediately start spamming the counter attack button, whatever that is for you. And you should be able to get it off every time for some additional damage at the end of that combo. So backing things up a bit and slowing things down just to go over what all just happened there. So here's that burst attack, counter attack that I do. This is I immediately activate that Phantom Sword Dance, as you can see there. And then here I'm just guarding through this 4-hit combo that he does. You'll see this quite a bit. He starts with a thrust of both swords, then he finishes it with that. Then I counter, go into the Whirlwind combo. I now have the Phantom Sword Dance. There I can dodge into another swift attack, which will then lead me into a second Whirlwind attack, as you see. And then that's also enough to deplete his stamina for a brutal attack to finish things up. So you can see I do that extended whirlwind combo a couple times, and that really should be enough to get you through this phase pretty quickly, just waiting for those brink guard counter opportunities. I do throw in a few other random things like a sprinting attack and whatnot, but really just trying to get through this phase with as much health and spirit points remaining as possible. So that takes us into phase 2, and right off the bat, he always seems to open with the same 3-step attack sequence, starting with this jump attack. So you can brink guard the slam down and combo into a whirlwind if you want to be aggressive. However, you need to immediately brink guard right after that to avoid the shockwave. As you can see, I missed that, unfortunately, on this run, taking a little bit of damage. Then he'll finish his initial attack with this dash move that you can avoid by timing a dodge right as you see the flash come out of his blade. This is something you definitely want to avoid, especially starting out at the beginning of this fight, because not only will it damage you, but it'll also inflict you with chaos, which is going to block part of your health bar. After the dodge, you should have another short window where you can get another attack in before you kind of prepare for his next wave of assaults. And as a side note for this phase, I would recommend trying to be as aggressive as possible to get this fight done as quick as you can. As mentioned earlier, ideally you get into this phase with all of your health refills available and all of your spirit points, so you can kind of take every opportunity you can to do damage and use those skills, and then kind of rely on your pool of health refills to negate any damage that you take. This next round of dash attacks that he does is where I start using that Flash Cutter skill. So you can use it to avoid the attack and do some stamina damage as I do here. However, if you do time it right, you can get a Brink Guard off of it to shortly stun him and then quickly get in some follow-up attacks as well. After that, you still can Brink Guard off his more kind of generic sword attacks that he'll do, and then counter that into the Whirlwind, just like we did in phase 1. And then at this point, his stamina's low, so I just go in for a sprinting attack to fully deplete it, and then follow that up with a brutal attack. So this next BS move that he does is a heal, and I'm not sure there's any way to interrupt it, but every time I saw this, I would just run up to him and start using the Ruthless attack just to kind of counter it with some damage. And this is also another reason why I would recommend trying to be super aggressive and end this fight as quickly as possible, as I have seen him do this heal multiple times throughout a fight. Eventually, he will put away his katana or whatever it is that he's using and switch back to his dual wield greatswords from phase 1. And I think this moveset's a lot easier to deal with personally, so it's kind of a relief to see that happen. Also, here you can see another use of that flash cutter skill, as I use it to quickly close the gap in on him as he transitions to that and get in a whirlwind attack. And then after that, you'll probably see this 3-combo slam attack that he does, which you can pretty easily Brink Guard on each slam and then just get in a few attacks in between. And then from there, things should start looking pretty familiar to phase 1. So basically back to that same strategy of Brink Guarding into that whirlwind combo as much as you possibly can. You should see a lot of the same moves and really try and get this fight done during this part, as he can transition back to that katana form, which is probably going to lead into him doing that heal move again, which is something you definitely don't want at this point. And then also, you might see a lot of burst attacks. I did, and honestly, I wasn't even trying to time the counter of those. I would just mash the counter attack button as fast as I could. It seemed to work pretty much every time. So I don't know, mileage may vary on that, but that was basically enough for me to get through the rest of this fight. Alright, so that is the boss complete using the dual wield weapon type. As mentioned, I'll quickly touch on a greatsword build I was kind of playing around with too if you want to try something else. Also, a quick reminder, if you are still struggling with this fight, to make use of your consumables. I don't really like incorporating those into my strategies personally, just because everybody's got different stuff and it kind of limits the amount of attempts that you can do with a limited finite resource. But I mean, there are things like the weapon enhancers, like the water enhancer, the fire enhancer, that you can apply to your weapons to briefly increase your damage output throughout the fight. There's also like the throwable items that you can use throughout the fight too. There's the Spirit of Advocacy that you can call it through the entrance. However, I kind of feel that sometimes he just kind of gets in the way and messes up the rhythm of the fight when I'm trying to work on a routine and whatnot. But you do have all of those things at your disposal to try and help out. You can also do things like sell items back in the crevice to get Lacrima to increase a couple stat points. So you have a couple other options out there as well if you're still kind of struggling to get through this to make yourself a little bit more powerful. And then here's a quick look at that greatsword build that I was using, which seemed to work pretty well. Again, I'm not going to go into super detail here, but you can have a quick look at what I was using. Kind of the same basic strategy. A lot of what I talked about carries over with the dual wield, where I was Brink Guarding into that whirlwind attack. Instead, with the greatsword, I'm kind of replacing that with the armor breaker and heart piercer skill. And then instead of the flash cutter skill, I kind of swapped that out with the counter strike skill of the greatsword as well. So just looking at some quick additional footage here using the greatsword. Again, phase 1, it's going to be very similar to the whirlwind concept with the dual wield. However, instead, we're Brink Guarding into that armor breaker attack, and then you can follow that up with a charged heart piercer, and that's kind of the main combo that you'll be doing to get through that phase. Again, if you just kind of wait for opportunities to do that, you can get through it pretty easily. And then going into phase 2, the main difference here, I was using that counter strike skill quite a bit on his attacks, and if you can get the timing right, you can deplete quite a bit of his stamina and do some pretty good damage as well. So you can see I do that to counter his attacks, and then just kind of rely on the generic guarding ability of the Greatsword to get through his other attacks too, while waiting for more opportunities to do that Brink Guard into the Armor Breaker, Heart Piercer combo as well. But overall, again, I just kind of had better luck with the Dual Wield, trying out this Greatsword. It seemed to work pretty well, just not really my weapon of choice, I think. So if you are more comfortable with the Greatsword, you can maybe try that out. You might have better luck with it. But yeah, that's kind of the other strategy I was kind of working on. So I'll leave you with that. Again, hopefully this was all helpful for you. Good luck on your boss attempt runs with this guy, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.